Hi, I'm Sara Bronin, the chair of the U.S. Advisory Council on Historic Preservation. And today I'm in the Dogpatch Historic District in San Francisco. For those of you who know San Francisco, I'm just east of Potrero Hill and the Mission District, and right over there is the waterfront. This area was inhabited by indigenous peoples for thousands of years. It was first claimed by Europeans, by the Spaniards. Then it was ceded to the Mexican government, and then after the Mexican-American War, Mexico ceded it in turn to the United States. There's a whole backstory here about how land in this area was taken from a Mexican family who thought they owned it. That land dispute went all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court, who decided in 1866 that it belonged to the United States, not to this family. I've had a similar experience in my own Mexican-American family of land divestment, a story I've told in an article published in the Latino Book Review. It's unfortunate that this story repeated itself, not just in Texas, where my ancestors were from, but out here in California, I'm sure many times over. But instead of getting too far into that history, I want to talk about the history of the people who settled this area after the Mexican-American War was over. At first, in 1848, the California gold rush was in full swing, so original settlers to this neighborhood included those who were panning for gold. They were followed by factory workers, by people who worked in the railroad industry, and by shipyard workers working in the shipyard just beyond. Many of these workers were immigrants from Russia or Ireland or other countries. And they gravitated towards this neighborhood because it was so affordable. Housing units were small, and so were lots, meaning that people didn't need a huge amount of land in order to live here. If you look behind me right here, you see some cottages that were designed by John Cotter Felton, a local architect, with housing all over the city. They're pretty cute, I think, and I think you can probably agree. But unfortunately, in today's San Francisco, cute is costly. Housing units in the Italianate, Queen Anne, Greek Revival, and Classical Revival buildings that still remain cost about $1 million each. But that's exactly why I decided to come to this neighborhood today. I want to understand why historic preservation and designation often go hand in hand with high property values. Research has shown that that problem is particularly acute in single-family neighborhoods in high-cost, high-demand areas, just like the neighborhood I'm standing in right now here in San Francisco. On the flip side, there is a benefit to affordability in historic preservation. Some of the most important conversions of historic buildings to housing have been for affordable housing projects. Many developers combine the federal rehabilitation tax credit with the low-income housing tax credit to provide tens of thousands of affordable historic units of housing across the country over the past many decades. So as preservationists, we really need to get to the bottom of the chicken or the egg question when it comes to designation. Are property owners designating their properties in neighborhoods like these historic so that they can preserve their property values? Or does designation itself bring some kind of property value bump that might have exclusionary results? To sort out some of these issues, I've called on the Advisory Council to reopen its policy statement on affordable housing, last adopted in 2007. The policy statement is somewhat outdated, and it's fairly narrow because it primarily addressed federal government actors and a regulatory process we oversee called Section 106. I'm hoping that in reviving this conversation, we can not only grapple with important questions like the ones I've laid out in this video, but also explore the possibility that preservationists can become more flexible in the standards that they apply to affordable housing, as well as the material integrity to which preservationists have long adhered. People and the neighborhoods that they create and the communities that they create need to be just as central in preservation conversations as the material fabric that we've all grown accustomed to protecting. So if you'd like to follow along and join us in these conversations, please follow us on social media, visit our website, and engage in these conversations as we carry them forward in the coming months. Thank you again for joining me for this preservation short.